Thank you all so much. Let's go ahead and do a roll call. Sue Brayton is not joining us today. I got an email from her. She will pop in if she has a moment. Janae is also excused. James Carer, if you could say present when I call your name, that would help.
Present.
Perfect. Jenny Wellman.
Present.
Stephanie Lyle.
Present.
Mary Desmarais.
Well, that's the new pronunciation.
Oof.
That's the French pronunciation. Present.
John Moist.
Here.
And Warren Zimmerman.
Here.
Wonderful. We also have Josh Stecker, our Assistant City Clerk, and myself, Laura Pettit, Tourism and Communications Director. I want to thank you all so much for joining us. We're going to go ahead and review and approve the special meeting minutes from April 21st. I have fixed an error in which Stephanie Lyle was reported both absent and present.
I'm the same.
Right.
I'm present and not present.
You were present. Yes, I think I had that just prior to you joining.
Okay.
Are there any changes, or do we have a motion to approve?
The only thing I had about the minutes was that it was just a nuance. It's not a major thing, but on the chart, it's suggesting that the existing words were amended. But it didn't include the nuances of like which funds were reduced and which, I mean, it has which was added. Sorry, it's confusing, but it's probably fine the way that it is. I just found it slightly, I think the final version of the awards is great, but the changes of reduction for some of the different organizations isn't actually reflected in the chart.
Correct.
Yeah.
And Narrows Challenge is listed twice, so I'm going to edit that out. Thank you. That is edited. Tree planting is listed twice too. That is removed. I'm sorry, that was a weird paste from.
Did you pick up on that Narrows Challenge event expenses are duplicated?
Yes, I did, and the tree planting, and the Open Juried Art Show actually.
Mm-hmm.
Weird. Josh, would you take over for just one moment? I have to answer a call.
Sure.
Since there seems to be a number of things that are not correct, maybe the proper thing to do would be revise the minutes and propose those at the next meeting for approval.
I think that's.
Yeah, I think we can do that.
Yeah.
Pardon me, I'm so sorry. Just returning. Okay, and we'll go ahead and hold that for our next meeting for approval once I make those changes.
I think that would be more appropriate. Then we can all take another look and make sure everything is correct.
Correct. We'll talk a little bit further later in this meeting too, but we do have a bit further guidance from MRSC on what is appropriate and what is not underneath what can be approved. So though that might change just slightly in that allocation.
Can you also include what we voted on originally 2 meetings ago versus what
The edit.
the end result was after your last meeting? That difference.
So asked, original vote, and reduced amounts or reallocation.
Mm-hmm.
Original award and reallocation award. Perfect. I will include those. Made a note to myself, and we will present that at the June 10th meeting for your approval, along with the minutes from this meeting. But thank you all. That is super helpful. And as we introduce an assistant into this department too, we will have a second person on minutes. So I appreciate your patience with that. All right. So a quick overview and update for the 2021 digital visitors guide and the print visitors guide. We have had an interesting progression of events. As you all know, we worked with Like Media last year to produce the 2020 guide. We did have a bit of back and forth on production as we headed into COVID. And we ended up getting a print guide out. This year, we opted not to put out a print guide for a few reasons. First and foremost being that we were concerned that the advertising dollars weren't there, and that would be an undue burden on our local businesses. And so it decided to shift all of our production into digital marketing support for an updated Gig Harbor version of the Gig Harbor guide. We were notified that Like Media had decided to run their own visitors guide without the city's input, and was soliciting advertising throughout town at rates that were not the negotiated rates that we had prior. And while it said independent guide as one word in the email, it was rather misleading. And of course, since we've produced it for the last 20 something years, I think the perception out there was that the Gig Harbor, the city of Gig Harbor was producing that print edition. We got in touch with Like Media and found that they said that they were going ahead with it because LTAC had told them that it was important to them and we needed a print guide. I'm not sure. In all of our minutes, I've never seen a discussion on that. So I'm not sure where that source of information came from, but we worked really, really hard over the past week and a half to figure out how we can move forward, preserve the relationship with Like Media, do what's best for our local businesses, and put out a product so that there's not a lot of market confusion. What we finally came to is that we will have editorial control, Like Media will have creative design control, and we will be working together to update that information. My concern was that they were going to use the information we submitted last year with minimal changes, and that wouldn't be correct. So there would be an alternate source of information that was not updated. We are working with them. I will probably work through the weekend in order to meet a Tuesday, Wednesday deadline for content, which is a lot. We have also made sure that our nonprofits can submit articles without paying to be featured. So I know, Stephanie, you'll be penning an article on the museum's 10th anniversary and History Rocks. Mary, you will be penning an article on an insider's guide to the farmer's market. We have the Gig Harbor Film Festival taking an insider look at that event as well. And then we have a bit more. Jenny, go ahead.
You have somebody that you know, is somebody at the film festival producing that already?
I believe it's going to be Chris.
Okay.
So I've been on the phone with him back and forth about that ask, and I'll let him know. I think it's 800 words. I will call him after this just to make sure, but good point. We've talked about it, but I want to make sure that that's clear on the deadline.
Hey,
Right.
Laura?
Laura, we were told in an email from Like Media that ours is 300 words.
Okay,
So that's a 1 page with 2 pictures.
I wonder if I will find out.
Okay.
That's interesting. Okay. Thank you for letting me know.
Yeah. That's a big difference if I'm writing this.
Oh, yeah. Well, I also want to make sure that everyone has equal representation in that too. So I will find out. Stephanie, were you given a word limit?
No, but I was just going back through other publication stuff, and I did these 2 articles for the visitor guide for 2020, but that wasn't produced, was it? I never saw it.
Yeah, that
It was. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that print edition is out there. There's also a digital copy on Gig Harbor Guide that's viewable,
Okay.
but that site is really, really user unfriendly, to me at least, and it's really hard to find.
Yeah.
That was part of the onus of recreating a more user-friendly interface, essentially.
Right. Well, I know a couple of years ago they had done an article on historic markers, but it wasn't super clear. And so I wrote a heritage markers article as well as a fishing article.
Yes, both were Ned's article.
Yeah, but I honestly, I don't know. I can't remember if they got used or not. So anyway, but I can also do another one on the 10th anniversary of the museum.
Both of those got used. I'll deliver you some copies.
Okay.
So you have them just for historical reference.
Yeah, okay.
So just as a clarification, I guess, for me, because I wasn't around last year when some of these things were going on. What are the details for this partnership with Like Media? The chamber used to produce what you are producing now at the city. And we found that it was very useful to use local businesses to create that. In fact, our profile guide is made up of businesses in the community that actually produce that magazine. So I'm just curious how that program works, and maybe you could share with the committee, if you haven't already, kind of the contract and how that whole process works. It sounds like they are kind of leading the way on this rather than us giving them the information and the process and what we expect from them as provider.
Right. So here's the history as I have it. In years past, we worked with the Peninsula Gateway, but we weren't satisfied with the quality of the finished product and the distribution. In the last year before I joined, there was a contract with Like Media. I can't find the signed version, but I can find a Word document that says what each party will produce. What we did is put out an RFP for a producer, and we went with them. We put out negotiated rates for our advertisers and what our expectations were for the guide. They signed that. And then as I came in, Diane Bertram was working on content with them. At the very last minute when COVID hit, they said they could no longer produce the edition because their advertisers had pulled out. We went back to the contract and ensured that, yes, we could get a print copy out last year. Because we didn't know how long COVID would last. We really needed them to honor the contract as well. We will put out an RFQ again for a producer. It won't always be Like Media. It may be if they come back with the best deal and the best presentation, but this year it was driven because they saw a gap in the market without our production and saw the opportunity for a profit, which I don't begrudge anyone. That makes sense, but we do want to make sure that the content is correct and out there, and there's not market confusion in the Gig Harbor unofficial city guide and the Gig Harbor official city guide. Without our input and editorial control, it cannot be called the official city guide and it cannot use our logo. But even if they don't, my concern was that people would assume that the content was produced by the city. And if it was faulty, we would have to take the responsibility for that, even though it wasn't our production. So I am putting together a post-hoc contract. And that's what we need. We need something in writing. We also need to make sure that our content as produced is not the intellectual property of the partner producing and cannot be used in other formats. We did have a post hoc agreement that I put together last year for photography use, stating that the photos provided were not the property of Like Media. And could not be used in their other publications. So we will go forward. Julie Reed is a great partner. We work together to problem solve on this. Really appreciate her efforts. And our concerns are basically that in a year as challenging as this one, that we're not going out with advertising queries to our local businesses and making them shoulder all of that cost. So if they can't afford advertising this year in the print edition, we'll work with them on figuring out something in the digital edition. And that is benefiting our businesses who want to be advertisers, who need the business, and benefiting our tourism efforts is essentially what this is. What we have built out for our hotels and our collectors is an ability to have a booking link on the Visit Gig Harbor WA site. So that we can directly tell how many people are being redirected to our site from that digital advertising and then going on to make an end booking. And as we all know, measuring gets results. So I'm a big numbers person, improving the ROI of our efforts, because otherwise we're just throwing our effort around. So that's kind of the background, and what I came into and how I see it evolving in order to best serve us and interests of collectors and recipients as well.
Thank you. We, just as a point of reference, we used to use the Gateway as well. And a number of years ago, as their distribution began to go down and down and down, we made the same decision at the chamber. But I would highly recommend, if you have the staff to do it, that you look into possibly having more of the creative side yourself, because you'll find it's much more cost effective, and you can create basically what the needs of the city and the visitor center and everyone else has. So anyway, I'd be happy to talk to you about that, because we
Absolutely.
went through that process, but we can do that offline.
Yeah, I have experience in Adobe InDesign, and I've produced several pieces. It's a bandwidth issue this year, and as we have someone else come on, I would consider taking the digital part or the design part in-house. But yeah, and also just perhaps redirecting that income in order to maybe have it mailed to residents within the city limits of Gig Harbor, because I firmly believe our citizens are our best publicists. And that guide is not only a resource for tourists, but also for our community as well. So those are some of my thoughts. I would love to talk to you offline about that. Thank you, Warren. That's an excellent point. We will still have to have an external printer, because I'm no Gutenberg, but we'll figure out what that would look like in years to come, and we will put out that RFQ for a fair sourcing process. Brilliant. Any questions on visitor guide production or anything digital that I can answer? Okay, let's move on to the next trolley pledges. I think I started off our unrecorded call by just thanking you, Warren, for getting that pledge in from the chamber. Mary, who I believe just dropped off, also got that in. We have an okay from Heron's Key as well as Uptown. I think the only place we're missing a pledge form is the Inn at Gig Harbor. I'll be following up this week. Is there still a stop? May change this year, and I'm not sure, but we are in great shape. I had a call with Pierce Transit yesterday. They will be launching the new vintage styled trolley this year. We'll be doing a ribbon cutting. That is set to launch in mid-June. They have launched an app this year and have a QR code so people can scan it with their phone and also see what the capacity is on upcoming trolleys and how long they'll be waiting for the next one. So I think that's a great user experience management point. Working with them on hanging their banner to advertise the trolley and doing a little bit of their digital work. We are in touch with our print services on creating the standalone with brochures. They are printing brochures this year, but also have that QR code as an option too for non-touch points. So
Laura, one thing about trolley stuff, in the past, they've brought all their drivers to the museum to get a little bit of history background so that when people ask them stuff, they can answer. So I just want to let you know that opportunity can exist for them if they want to do that.
let's do it. That's great. I'll touch base. I have a call on Friday with them. I'm assuming it would happen via Zoom this year. We will figure out times that work for you, and I can put forward a couple of times where that training might be possible.
Okay, sounds great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Just so you know, Laura, they did stop in the chamber maybe 2 weeks ago. And we're one of the places that they pick up a lot of information to help train their drivers. So I know they've been out and about, so.
Yes, they also mentioned something about the new stop right by a hot farm.
Mm.
And I wasn't quite sure. I was supposed to take a picture for them the other day.
Yeah, what they talked about with me is relating to the Maritime Gig, because where Hop Farm used to be an open parking area, and they use that as a staging area. So when they were here, we talked about the fact that they need to keep in mind that's an active business now, and we'll need to discuss specifics on how they're going to manage that for the gig.
You are right. That used to be open space. That's also where I opened my first checking account, when it was a Key Bank.
Laura, what is the total cost of the trolley?
The cities, I think the total cost is something around $246,000, but we only are responsible for something. I think the city pays something like 40, and then the partnerships usually run up to 25,000.
So the partnerships are the pledges?
Yes. And as Warren mentioned, that only happens if service occurs. So
This is the
Okay.
fare for the trolley. Is it still 50 cents and then $1 for the whole day?
I think so.
Well, that's neat.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah, and
huge
the
community.
principle on that is that, when we first set this up a number of years ago, the idea, James, was to buy down the cost so that we could get more rider participation. When it was originally proposed by Pierce Transit, I think the cost was $2 or $2.50 per ride. And we just didn't see any way that people in the community were going to put it to use if we had that kind of an expense for them. So that's why the buy down system was put into place. And it varies from year to year based on ridership. So if the ridership's up, then the cost is down slightly. But the city has basically taken responsibility for the majority of the buy down costs.
And we thank our partners too for continuing to do that. So huge benefit to everybody. All right. Any further trolley questions? Wonderful. I haven't seen too much from the Inn at Gig Harbor lately. I'm going to try to reach out and maybe even go over there. But if anyone does hear from them, I would love to chat. We're gonna also touch, let's see, going into our next topic on the digital ad spend update. That will coincide with the launch of visitgigharborwa.com. I've been talking to our partners at C-Sound about what that looks like. We will be doing some A/B testing to see which ads are most effective, and that will be across the web. It's not bought on any specific website. It is tracking our demographics of past visitors and their psychographics and what their interests are. So we will have several ad campaigns running at the same time, targeting different audiences based on our attractions. And I'm super excited to have that start up. I think that's going to be massively beneficial for us. That's also a great way to track return on investment for our advertising. I think we just lost somebody. All right. Heading into any questions on advertising I can answer there? Oh, we lost Josh. It's non-video. Okay, I'm going to move forward to our calendar of events. So that is one of the pending big items for our Visit Gig Harbor site that I'm working on right now. I've been into, and also our visitor's guide, and providing that information to Lake Media as well to make sure those are in agreement. So I've been reaching out to everybody in the past 2 years of visitors guides, just trying to see where we're at. Things like Arbor Day have been canceled. If you know anyone who's passionate about the environment, they have an opportunity for someone to take over. They are not producing it again for 2022. So that was a school focused event for kids here at the Civic Center, there at the Civic Center. And that's an opportunity too. So as these canceled events come back, I'm also just putting that in the calendar as well. So if someone's concerned about something that they love that usually happens, like the Paddlers Cup in April, we're putting that in, and then also asking them to see October for updated dates for 2021. So we want to stave off the misinformation that these events are moving permanently. So again, just like with the New York City subway, if you see something, say something on calendar of events. I know the the Narrows Bridge Challenge, that run just announced that they'll be producing, I believe, in July. So adding that into the calendar and reaching out, you see something, send it my way. I would be massively grateful. Our digital format gives us the opportunity to update those dates and changes throughout the year. So as things happen or add on or adjust their dates, we can add those into the digital calendar. Let's see, Jenny.
Laura, are you guys going to bring back the gigabyte?
That's a bandwidth thing. Yes, but what it will be is that we'll be publishing blog articles throughout the month. And then the gigabyte will go out in the beginning of the month with a recap of everything that's happening and a link to the calendar of events for the month to come. What I've been trying to do there is streamline our work on content production so that we're not stretched too thin, and that we have a stream of ready to go content rather than having to chase it down.
Okay.
So it is, I would love to do that as well. It's, to be honest, I'm stretched super thin right now and I'm very, very excited for someone to come on. On that note, we'll head into the next topic, which is Summer Sounds lined up. We have 6 bands confirmed. I'm going to go ahead and pull up my list on my other laptop here, and I can answer any questions there. We are in the contracting process. I'm having our lawyer look over that just to make sure that we are online with everything that needs to happen should any concerts need to be canceled. We have a 2-year contract with Pacific Stage that is happening, that's already in motion. And then we will also have our movies in the park, which I'll move into in just a moment here too. I have been really looking for some bands that may be a little bit different, that don't, I think we have some great bands that people love and will always return. I think we need to maybe diversify a bit and make sure that we're hitting different genres. So I have, here we go. The schedule right now looks like thus. For July 13th, we would have Surf Wax America, which is a Weezer cover band, getting that sweet 90s groove in. For the 20th of July, we have Sweet Tea and Justice, Americana, and a little bit of rock and roll. For the 27th of July, we have Mark Hurwitz and Gin Creek, which is country. We have Sounds Like Dolores, which I believe is covers as well. August 10th, we have the Beatniks. August 17th, we have Flock of Beagles, which name, I just adore that name. We are holding August 24th for the Paperboys. I know the mayor really wanted to have them play. They are a Canadian band. They will be pending border opening. If we do not have the Paperboys and they can't show up, we do have a band that is offered to hold that. My guilty pleasure, Mark Zenobio. We also have Nate Botsford on the 31st, which has been a favorite in years past. So that is our lineup as it stands right now. Contracts are going out, they're being reviewed right now. As for our phased approach, if we go back to phase 1, we can't have anything happen. In phases 2 and 3, what we'll do is create pods with chalk paint on the Scansy lawn that's biodegradable and removable. We will need to have a ticketing service for first come, first serve in order to keep it at 25 or 50% capacity. And what I'm imagining that will look like is you can have up to 4 to 5 people in your pod. It will be 6 feet away from other pods. And that's that. So in phase 4, we can have things return as normal. So those are our contingency plans for events.
Laura, I think we've received new guidance from the governor that doesn't quite match up with that. So we may need to touch base on that. Special events have been canceled completely in phase 2. So I think there's been some changes.
Wonderful.
Josh, can you repeat that? Phase 2, all special events canceled?
Yeah, there's a new special events guidance document that came out on April 26th, I think, and special events are canceled. And there's a definition of what constitutes a special event and what doesn't. Doesn't necessarily jive with the city's definition of special events, but it would affect the movies and the concerts.
Yeah.
In phase 3, they'll be allowed, but it's the the total number of people can't exceed more than one person per 72 square feet. So for each 6-foot square, we can only admit one person to the event. And that's regardless of pods or groupings. So it's going to be severely limited in phase 3.
Okay, well, we'll have 9 people out for the movies.
Yeah, that's about what it sums up to. Yeah. Hopefully we'll be in phase 4 before too long.
Have you thought about doing anything virtual if you're restricted that much?
So our licensing agreement, which is the other part of this, I did not know this. I always thought it was so strange how movies in the park only showed a limited number of things. They should show better movies. Our licensing agreement may not jive with an online or digital format. It could work for the band. That's what we did last year in partnership with the Greater Gig Harbor Foundation for Band Together for that too. And we already have the banner printed, so it may turn out that we do something like that. Our bands last year were super generous and donated their time. The online streaming service that we worked with through Greater Gig Harbor Foundation, that was underwritten by CHI Franciscan, which was also incredibly generous, and Metagenics as well, also incredibly generous of them. It is expensive. It's super expensive to do it well. And with music, you kind of have to. But we'll see how that goes. We will adjust, and everyone's favorite word, pivot, if need be. But hopefully, I don't know, 9 people are going to have a great experience.
So just another question, does the LTAC pay for this, or is this a city paid function?
In
It's
years
funded
past,
with lodging tax.
I'm sorry, Josh, go ahead.
Yeah, the concerts and the movies, they're funded with lodging tax dollars, which is a reason why we can't take them virtual, because if they're virtual, then we're not bringing anyone into the community to spend money. So
Right, and that's why that was operated by the Greater Gig Harbor Foundation last year. Yeah, so. Boy, we have had sponsorships in the past, and along with the city's funds. So, yeah, our movies in the park lineup, I want to share it with you guys just in case. We went for a little bit more of an inclusive feel this year because 9 o'clock is late, and animated movies, while great for kids, that can be. We thought about doing a second series last year in Donkey Creek Park, where we'd have, later movies with a different crowd. Instead, we just went with favorites, limited animation, some nostalgic films. So I'll read you the lineup. On July 16th, we have Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. On July 23rd, we have Grease, which could be a sing-along. On July 30th, Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. We have Moana on August 6th, which is our one animated. We have A League of Their Own on August 13th, and Ferris Bueller's Day Off on August 27th. So try to make that a little inclusive there. I do really want to show Jurassic Park at some point and change the Jurassic Park sign just for the day. I think that would be hilarious. So. Kit-Kat Bank is in line to do bagged popcorn rather than the popcorn machine. So that keeps in line with standards. That may, Josh, I just saw you twitch. It may not keep in line with standards. So we'll check and see, but that's another there if we need it opportunity. We've been through the pods idea and sunk that. So we will adjust as we go. Moving into the next topic on rack cards, we have the trolley rack card arriving on the 21st of May. So we'll have that circulated. Cascade Print Media has been our partner in years past. And as I understand it, we, as the city, have reached out to vendors to see what they plan to produce. And then we put in a mass order to get a negotiated rate. And I think that's beneficial for everybody. I do not have a list of the past partners that we have extended that offer to, and I most definitely don't want to exclude anyone. If anybody knows, if anyone has any information, let me know. I would like to include as many people as possible in that offer. How I plan to operate it is having the buy-in from each party, and then scheduling out those dates. Individual vendors will be responsible for their artwork production and getting that in. I can't manage that deadline process, but I do think it's beneficial to have a standard and also just a negotiated rate for everybody to save a little bit of money. The city can issue invoices for payment so that we can manage the relationship with Cascade. That's perfectly fine with me.
Yeah, I know we'd like to take advantage of that if possible.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, a quick question. I know that there's that digital map thing down at Jarosich Park. Is there any consideration given for putting actual rack cards down there? I know the idea was to avoid that because you have the digital thing, but I know that a lot of people like to take the card away. I mean, for sites that they're going to visit or something. Because I think it might be somewhat beneficial. I mean, I know I struggle because it's really hard to get people from that end of town to this end of town because there's no way for anyone to even know that there's a museum in town because there's no rack cards and half the time the digital thing's not working.
Yeah,
So,
the digital thing is a real thorn on my side. The company that runs it is in Minnesota. So when it goes down, we have to contact them and we have to connect them with our IT department in order to get it back online.
Yeah.
It was expensive.
Yeah.
This is also before my time.
Mhm.
Since that, there have been several other companies that put out less expensive versions and do them well. I understand everything behind ordering it, but it's no help to anybody if it's offline.
Mhm.
I'm not opposed to rack cards. I do know that there's a definite reason why we went digital down there. I wonder if it was pollution.
Mhm.
It was also difficulty just trying to keep them filled and, you
Mhm.
know, if it's just an open place like that with a lot of kids, they were being pulled and there were a lot of issues like that, you know, kind of started that whole thinking about how we could address it, and the digital thing kind of came out of that thinking. Stephanie, do you have rack cards and lots of current material at the center? We're seeing more and more people down here on a daily basis, visitors who are coming in. If you don't, we certainly would welcome you to bring those.
Yeah, we're actually getting ready to print new rack cards because all of our current cards, which we don't have that many left, have incorrect hours. So we're just getting ready to do that. And so as soon as we have those, we'll get those down to you for sure.
Great, thanks.
Mhm.
Stephanie, we could take some too. We have a small rack here.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Okay. I also noted the Downtown Waterfront Alliance has the farmers market rack cards ready to go. So we can most definitely distribute those at our touch points as well. And Warren, I'll maybe drop some by if you, Mary, haven't already up to the chamber.
I don't think Josh has taken any up there yet. He's my
Oh.
delivery person. And Warren, I was supposed to tell you hi from Josh.
Brilliant. Yep, anything you've got, let me know. And I'll distribute as much as I can. Or Josh, I will leave this one to Josh. Let's see. The only other thing I really need your input on is spring short lead and summer short lead media pitches. So things to get out to our local media and regional media on reasons to come to Gig Harbor. This is challenging. Anything that can be done independently is great. Butler's Farm, I think, is starting to open up for apple picking, and I always think that's an interesting way to bring people down. Anything else, any ideas you have, I'm very, very open. Stephanie, I know you've got a lot of digital or virtual things happening. So does Harbor Wild Watch, which is great, but it get people to visit.
So the farmer's market will go no matter what, because it's considered essential, so it would not be impacted
Perfect.
by the special events change.
Yeah,
Perfect.
and we will stay open as, I mean, I'll double check those new phasing guidelines, but our 3-day-a-week schedule is designed to try to weather the phases. So we will continue to stay open as long, unless we go to phase 1, the 3-day-a-week schedule that we're on right now. So hopefully we'll be able to maintain that.
Okay. That's good to know.
Or do you happen to know if the other visitor center has plans to open anytime soon?
Yes, I do. No, we don't. Uh, First of all, our volunteer base is primarily over 65. So that's been first and foremost in our consideration. Second of all, our list in Sign Up Genius has disappeared. So I don't have an accurate visitors list. Barb Borschheit, who is so lovely and has been acting as our volunteer coordinator, cannot do it anymore and has resigned from managing volunteers. Ideally, that is going to be something that the assistant manages as the volunteer process. What we need to do is first retrain volunteers before Scansey House reopens again. Harbor Wild Watch needs to figure out how, because they do it for us, when they're going to be reopened. And so much of their stuff is tactile that it can be really difficult. So those are our pending issues on reopening.
Well, we have been open since we went to phase 2 almost a year ago. And the way we did it is with staff. Basically, the visitor center's been open. We have signage, we have all the proper materials out there for people to come in, masks, sanitizer, all of those things. And we basically just are on alert so that when someone comes, one of us can go and greet them. And I would just say that it appears to us, based on the traffic we're seeing now, that there's going to be a lot more demand. And even without volunteers, if there was some way to have that facility open on the weekend, I think it would really be beneficial to everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the agreement. We work weekdays, and because they're open on the weekends, they were handling the weekend traffic. But right now, for the last year, there hasn't been anyone handling anything on the weekends.
Right. I'm going to talk to Lindsay tomorrow at 10 a.m. or I'm sorry, noon. So I'll chat with her and just see where we can go on that. We are a little dependent on them because that's their home as well.
Sure.
So,
Yeah, if there's anything else that you guys come up with that we could do to help, I mean, we certainly are willing to do that. I mean, I have limited
robot
people
staff.
too. I have people too that are very limited. So, but we're willing to do whatever we can.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I'll add that we have rack card racks here too at the museum, so we can distribute materials if people want to get them out there. I know Mary brings us lots of good stuff, or Josh, I should say.
Well, we
On the-
used to.
Well, yeah.
We used to have all kinds of stuff.
We have a nice farmer's market thing up. It's pretty great. Everyone loves that. So, but yeah, we have other materials too. Sometimes we have boating safety materials that the Coast Guard brings in, and various things. And I was kind of hoping that the garden tour would happen this year, but unfortunately that's not happening. But I think the open studio tour is scheduled for this year in September. So that should be good to have something like that. So,
Yeah, we're excited for that.
mhm.
Hey guys, on the digital side of things, Vacasa currently has 8 listings in Gig Harbor, as well as a few other that are going to come on through this turnkey acquisition. I'm happy to include anything like regarding, information about visiting the museum on those listings for sure. So
Oh,
if
great.
there's something that you guys want to present to me, I can pass that over to all the copywriters and they'll get those descriptions edited for those listings.
Okay. Sounds
James,
great.
Can I also ask you a favor on that? Can you send me those listings so I can make sure that they are included in the print version of the visitor's guide under our vacation rental section?
Absolutely.
I know you sent me some great content on a couple of featured ones, which I've included on Visit Gig Harbor. I want to make sure all of them are listed in the print version too.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Sure. One final note, I think this is our last topic, and then we'll open it up for anything on your collective minds. We checked in with the Municipal Resource Service Center on all of the questions that we really had that are absolutely valid from our last special meeting. We are in the process of scheduling Eric Lowell to come down virtually anyway, for our June 10th meeting and be our special guest and give an overview of LTAC roles, responsibilities, limits, goals, and further review the parameters of LTAC grant approval process. So information is key. I think we've all had some questions, and I think that should be informative and clarify it for most of us. I will say that I did ask specifically about the grant that we approved for the Sportsman's Club and trees. I was informed that that is not within the parameters of LTAC. That's unfortunate. That may not be an award that we can grant. I will figure out how to handle that in the coming week. So
Sounds good.
So we may revert back to our initial awards. But we've already had that approved by council, and that would lengthen the process by a month. So that's where we're at. So
Can we give them the opportunity to amend their request, or is that not?
I don't know. And that's probably going to be an MRSC. That's something I'll figure out in this coming week. Yeah.
Yeah, because if it was a request for like pull for a soldier or something like that, that would make sense. And they could find tree money someplace else maybe, but we'll see. Yeah.
Never the same day twice.
Unless it's Groundhog Day, right?
This year feels like that a lot. We're all just Bill Murray trying to get by. Wonderful. That is everything from my end. Is there anything else that I need to know?
Mary has some.
I have two things. First of all, Josh, is it possible for you to send out those new regulations to the LTAC committee?
The special events guidance.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll send that out. Yeah.
Oh,
that'd be real helpful as we look ahead to some potential special events that we'd like to get on the calendar.
Yeah. It's mostly going to affect the events in the city park and the Maritime Parade, but I think Warren's probably already aware of that.
The other thing I just want to add, and Stephanie, I'm going to be talking to you further about this when I get more information, but Gig Harbor has been selected to be the location for Revitalize Washington, the Roadshow this September. Every year, the State Main Street Program puts on an annual Main Street Conference, and it's usually held in a larger community with conference center and hotels and everything. So we don't have those facilities downtown, and those have to be in the Main Street district in order to hold the conference there. Well, this year they're doing a road show, so they're going to smaller communities to feature some of the smaller Main Street towns. And Gig Harbor was selected for the Western Washington location. So it's a maximum. We usually get about 300 or 400 people at these conferences. Each of the roadshow sites will have a maximum of 50, but we will have Main Street directors coming, and I know I've already had 5 rooms booked. Yay! And the museum will be a location that we come to visit. So I'm really excited to bring them here. And it's September 28th is when they'll be here in Gig Harbor.
Great.
Yes, I'm
This
excited.
is John. The blessing of the fleet this year, while the city has generously said that they would support it in any way that they could, the priest at St. Nick's has decided to have it to hold the event at Ansich Park instead of Jersey Dock. So it'll be more of a low-key event. I don't think they want it advertised. I'm going to check on that, and if we do, then we can get on that virtual calendar. And I'll let you know whether or not we would like that on the calendar or not. But it's not going to be as publicized as it has been in the past, or attended, I would imagine.
I just wonder how the priest is gonna get the holy water that far from the park.
Yeah.
What's that?
Fire hose.
How the priest is gonna get the holy water that far. That's like a Russell Wilson.
Oh, no, he'll be out on a boat in the,
I see.
no, they'll go out in the runabouts and, with his water cannon. Yeah, you can shoot holy water about 40 feet with that thing. So.
Hey, John, is that on June 6th?
Yeah, it's that first weekend in
Sunday?
June. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you for that. I grew up going to St. Nick's.
Yeah.
So I've done those. I love the innovation with the Super Soaker. That is just priceless.
Well, I have a question for this group that just to kind of hit the common memory bank here. Does anyone here know or recall if there has ever been an exploration of developing a cultural arts stadium or convention district in the Gig Harbor area?
So Stephanie, I know there was somebody a couple, 2-3 years ago working on a creative arts district.
Which is different. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that's the only one I know of.
Okay. Yeah, the Arts Washington, Washington State Arts Commission has this creative districts program that they're promoting that quite a bit, but it doesn't have any direct tax base. It's really just a designation. It can help for a lot of reasons, but it's not a taxing district. So Cultural Arts Stadium and Convention District is a taxing district, much like the taxing districts that created Penn Met Parks or Key Penn Parks or the Library District, all of which are small portions of property taxes. And it's something that I've been looking at quite a bit for long-term sustainability of heritage sites, the museum, other historical societies, and it has to mirror like the school district boundaries or a community college district. It can be slightly modified, based on certain parameters that are in the law. But I'm just curious because I think this might be something that Gig Harbor may want to consider for the future. Mary, you've talked about having conferences. We've thought about, it'd be great to have the Washington State Museum Conference here, but we don't have any accommodations for that. And, as I look at the museum campus, there's potential for growth on this site or modifications to existing structures and whatnot to be able to accommodate that sort of thing. I don't think that we'd ever go like full on blown, convention center kind of thing, but certainly some accommodations for breakout rooms, larger gathering spaces that could also be used for performing arts during the winter time. So that might be something to consider, and it would be a way to fund that. But I'm just kind of feeling that out to see if that's something that people would be interested in learning more about and supporting that. The earliest funding could come through for something like that, if it was actually voted into being, would be 2023. And we'd have to have a proposal in by August of this year for the county commissioners to review. So it's something I put out there because I think it is a viable possibility for our community as we look at ways to thoughtfully manage this idea of the supporting tourism, supporting potential conferences. And I wouldn't expect that it would be something super large, but there might be possibilities there. So I put that out there. If anyone is interested in more information or details about that, I can certainly email that to you. But I also wanted to sort of just see, because I thought maybe Warren or John or Mary might have some recollection of anything like this kind of coming up in past years.
Yeah, about 12 to 15 years ago, Mark Hoppin came up with a plan for the block bordered by Soundview, Pioneer Way, and that block there, Judson Street, Harbor View Drive, for a sort of a cultural arts center in downtown that had a lot of different aspects. But
Mhm.
that plan is sitting in somebody's desk someplace
Mhm.
at the city. And I always thought it'd be interesting just to take it out and dust it off and see what if we could use pieces of it. But it
Mhm.
was a pretty neat, well thought out plan
Mhm.
for that area. What is it called? The Greens. What's that called, Warren? Back
Yeah,
there.
it's called the Greens area, back
Yeah.
where the pet store is and.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Taking a lot of that area and
Mhm.
converting that into an amphitheater or something like that. But the plan's there. They just find it.
Right.
And
I know that they had another plan done, a
excuse
feasibility.
me, excuse me, I don't want to interrupt, but I got to run. I got to go to the dentist.
Okay.
right. You
Well,
guys
thanks,
do
John.
that.
Yeah, I know that they also had a plan for the big Performing Arts Center up by the YMCA. And Mark did a pitch to the city for a public facilities district. I've talked to a couple people in Port Townsend that initiated a public utilities district or a public facilities district, PFD, and they're not actually that excited about it. So I don't know if this might be a better option. I do know that no place in Washington state has ever initiated or successfully initiated a cultural arts stadium and convention district, but maybe they weren't us. So I don't know. But if that's something that people want to talk about more, I'd be very interested in having that additional conversations. So.
Yeah, Laura, I've got some people waiting. I'm going to need to go as well.
Yeah.
So thank you, everybody, but I've got to head out. Good to see everyone.
Yeah,
Bye.
thank you.
I have something scheduled shortly, but I'm more than happy to continue to host the meeting. And I believe we actually have to have a motion to adjourn.
Hmm.
Laura, do you have a chance to talk at some point in time in the next couple
Oh,
of days?
yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, give me a call. I'm free this afternoon
Okay.
after, probably after 1:30.
Okay.
And then tomorrow between 12:30 and 2:45.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, it depends on how long Wild Watch goes. So 12:45 and 2:45.
We'll touch base.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Shall I make a
Okay.
motion to adjourn?
Second.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. James, I'll keep an